Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, welcome to ESL One Frankfurt Day 2 here in the Commerzbank-Arena. We have the semifinals and, of course, the grand finals of some more Dota action coming to you today in the evening. But to kick off the morning with the fans already all filed in here in the stadium, we will be jumping right to semifinal number 1. So without further ado, let's meet our players and our teams for the very first match of the day.
Taking first place.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ESL One Frankfurt.
Popping in on the background, going for elevate as quick as possible. The egg is laid out. The egg will be exploding here. God can't stop it in time. You have to use it so well. You can't just be right there with the trigger.
Match number 2 of the quarterfinals coming up. It's going to be EG versus VG.
They need one. They've got more. That last attack, they've got it down for the count. There is still a little bit of a flow going to now. He can actually take himself away to safety. Really torn apart. Crushed off it. And GG. 26 minutes into this game. Evil geniuses. They're only 2-0 at VG Gaming.
Man, if you're not excited after watching those highlights from yesterday, I don't know what to tell you, because VP versus EG coming right up. Let's bring up the rosters for both teams as we break it down here at the PaySafe Expert Desk. Let's start with you, Alan. What are we looking at in terms of both teams here? I mean, they filled out pretty much the expectations of all the fans around the world yesterday.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an amazing matchup. We're certainly going to see some big plays, but this is going to be a battle of strategy as well, and I thought Hani nailed it during our pregame talk when he talked about pace.
Yeah.
This is a game of two teams that love to dictate pace. We talked yesterday about VP has changed their play style from being mostly a late game team in the last patch to trying to force early action. 40% of their kills are between 10 and 20 minutes, and they do that largely so that they can take control of tempo. EG, on the other hand, strong team from start to finish, but they had their problems. They were a below 500 team for a while in 60-plus minute matches in the last patch. If they take it late, which they're used to being able to do against most teams, I feel like VP may have the advantage.
But, I mean, I do want to bring up the point, Ben. I mean, they totally changed that yesterday. As we see the players entering the stadium, EG not at all waiting for that late stage of the game, but really pressuring very early on against VG Gaming. What do you think, Ben?
Woo!
he's just sucked into the screen. He's like, yes, my favorite players from around the world. All right. Well, as Ben continues to admire where he could have been, Jacob, what do you think about EG? I mean, do you think they've changed it enough that they're not really going to wait for that late game? Because that's not what we saw yesterday, but how is it going to fare against VP today?
Yeah, I mean, Alan was talking about how VP has changed it up and apply pressure early on, and I think EG did just the same, you know. When you have your number 1 position, run in and gang the mid lane 6 minutes into the game and get a triple kill, that's when you know you're in trouble if you're the enemy team.
On top of that, we have to talk about Aui's versatility. Before, he used to play a lot of Enigma, which most teams just straight up banned out. He had the Jungle Coddle, which had an easy win at the Summit, which no one had really seen before in competitive, and yesterday we've seen the Naga Siren transition into a 1 from a 4. So, I mean, all the time he's, either getting really, really farmed or he's playing very aggressively. There was a period of time where they also had him on a Lion and he just didn't really farm at all and he just kept killing people. So you don't really know what to expect, and he plays that flex position.
And then he can, of course, revert back to the visits. A hero both teams would probably be 2 of the best teams in the world at playing.
Yeah, I've called Mushi the most versatile player ever in Pro Dota 2. I think Aui 2000 might be number 2. I mean, the array, people forget, he used to be a carry player. Back with Pot Bottom, Dignitas, still holds some records on Tiny, for example. And we're talking about not only being able to play a variety of heroes, but play those heroes in a variety of different styles. I think he's the kind of player you build a team around.
Yeah, I mean, he came back yesterday with the Lilborn carrying 2, of course, in their match. Now, Kai, as we take a look at the head-to-head matchup, of course, yesterday we did highlight DKFO was on the side of VP, and we're going to see him again in this matchup. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on Universe, of course, an absolutely famous player. Yesterday we focused on Sumail. What are we supposed to look at here for Universe?
I mean, Universe is always a key factor for the victories of EG. If he, it's hard to say that he has to perform because he always does. For EG, he's always he's always on top of his game. It's so hard for him to find out or to seek for a game that he's not like on top of his game.
He is the most consistent top player.
Yeah, that is 3.9 kills, 2.8 deaths, 11.1 assists. That is the third best KAD among all players.
Yeah, we got it.
And for an off laner to have those kinds of numbers, it's just unprecedented. I mean, he's playing at another level right now.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to be thrown in so many scenarios where that's not going to be your number one priority. The numbers aren't going to be your number one priority. But despite doing that, it's not that he's playing selfishly. He's helping out his team. So on the other side, we've talked a little bit about what Universe can do for EG. Who needs to really step up or at least be that consistent foundation for VP, Jacob?
The supports. Definitely just the supports. They make the whole game flow for Virtus.Pro, and we haven't seen any indication that they wouldn't be able to do so now. They haven't had one shaky game. I don't even think against Na'Vi at Dream League that they were shaky at all. I think people aren't crediting Na'Vi enough either. I think Na'Vi has gotten really, really strong over the course of the past months, so I think Virtus.Pro is much stronger than the rest of the analysts gave them credit for.
All right. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, of course, during the pre-show. VP versus EG. Yesterday, of course, we talked a lot about the focus of disables, team fights after the drafting phase, right? Once you get it, so during the draft, you need to really focus on that. The meta hasn't really settled, so why not go to something that's always been consistent in Dota? Are we still going to focus on that theme today, do you think, Ben?
I think not so much. I think you just need to give Illidan and G heroes that they can shine on. The G and FNG synergy kind of reminds me of old school Dendi and Puppey. He always gives them a favorable matchup, or he babysits a mid with a support that can actually land him a kill. And then after like 1 or 2 kills, you just leave him alone and help other areas of the map. So I think G is much easier to shut down than Illidan, just because you need to devote so many resources to kill that safe lane carry a lot. But if they can stop G or not give him quap every single game, then that becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Kai, as we're talking about picks, I mean, yesterday we saw a pretty diverse range of heroes, of course, as we have been in the current meta. Now that we're in the top 4 and we're looking at teams that are a little bit more versatile, and since teams are versatile on both sides, are we looking at more versatility and depth in terms of hero pool, or do you think everyone's going to still try to settle for what's the most consistent and stable?
I mean, yesterday between these two teams, we've seen 2 patterns. It was twice a Klings and twice a Silencer. I felt like, I mentioned this earlier, where EG to me had the tougher challenge in terms of opponents, but if we see more versatile heroes, I would assume so. I don't think they just fall back to that pattern. I also think heroes will be banned out of the previous games, but Peter, for sure, he's so experienced in terms of his draft.
Right.
He will switch up at the draft. I do assume so.
All right. Well, we do have the game getting all ready, so we'll have a little bit more chance to talk about the picks, of course, as we go through the picks and bans. But right now, we have so many fans already here in the stadium early in the morning. We'd love to hear what they have to say about the upcoming match. So who have we got, Sean?
Thank you so much, Shobra. I am joined by my now new friend, Nick. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great here.
Now, Nick is a serious Evil Genius fan right here. Let's show off a little bit. He's got the sweater going on. Make some noise if you agree. He went ahead and got himself the airbrush tattoo. He's not messing around. Nick, why Evil Geniuses? Why do you like this team?
Man, I've been for Evil Genius since TI4 and was too bad that Fear wasn't there. Yeah, then having him here now is just great.
So you'd say Fear is your favorite player?
Yeah, totally. He's been in Dota so long, so much experience. He deserves to win everything.
There you go, been said. Now, how did you feel about their performance yesterday?
Yeah, it was great to watch. I mean, they just absolutely rolled through and Fear just burned them all.
There you go, can't put it any better. Well, of course, I have to give you a little prize here for sitting down next to me, the G2A gift card, 20 euros right there to go spend on some good stuff. What are you going to buy?
Games and shit, of course.
There you go, that's what it is. And of course, for the guys around, make some noise for Evil Geniuses. These guys get some tickets, there you go, for the after party tonight. There you go, and of course, Evil Geniuses, back to you guys.
All right, EG fans, and according to Nick, Fear deserving to win everything, but I'm sure we have some fans that have something to say against that on the side of VP. Let's see what fans we found on the other side. Zoe, who have you got?
Well, I am now joined by Kim, who is a Virtus.Pro fan. Have you been enjoying the Virtus.Pro games yesterday?
Obviously I have. They have been pretty nice, and well, FNG really showed what he can do on the drafts.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before you would like to have FNG's children. Is that correct?
I'm bloody dying for it, please.
I think you're not the only one. Come on, where are the VP fans here in the audience? Let me hear it. There we are. All right. We have some VP fans. Well, they showed some great performances yesterday. Now they're going up against CG. How do you see their chances against such a team?
Well, I think they can definitely show what they can do. I think G on Nevermore is just godlike, and EG should be ready to get upset.
All right. Well, we're ready for sure, and I hope you're ready for a good time, as I will hand you over to after-show tickets for the lovely ESL after-show party from Twitch. And of course, since Delayed has been supporting your decisions for VP, even though she's not a VP fan as well, I hand her this lovely G2A gift card for 20 euros, with which she will, of course, also buy games and other things. And with that, I hand it back over to our desk.
All right, thank you very much. Back here at the PaySafe Expert Desk. I mean, fans, of course, as usual, cheering for their teams, but it's really good to see early in the morning fans showing up to really bring out that energy for both teams here in the semifinals. It's time for us to put kind of our necks on the line here. We had some nice predictions yesterday from most of you. But we'll start with Jacob. What do you think, EG or VP?
I feel like a villain in the prediction game we're doing this weekend, because I've bet against my friends, so to speak, all weekend, and I'm going to do so again. I think VP will take this.
Oh, all right. Putting VP up there, believing in their stride from the seeding bracket coming in. What about you, Ben?
I'm going to choose Evil Geniuses. I think they put on a strong performance yesterday. They've had a stronger performance, in the past year, I would say, overall, and they're just a lot deeper in their pool.
All right. And Alan?
Guys, I have a problem. I think we're going to have to stage an intervention. It's a best-of-3 LAN elimination series. EG is 16-2 in those series since TI4. I have to pick EG.
So he's playing it safe, playing it by the numbers. Well, you belong here on the PaySafe Expert Desk if you're playing it safe, so thank you for that. Are you also on that one, Kai? I mean, do you believe in that stat that they're just too hard to take out before the finals?
That, and I really liked the summary of Ben earlier, where he said that VP wasn't tested enough yet, and I feel like EG, to me, is on the upper hand here. So I would go 2-1 for EG here.
All right, I'm seeing worries in Jacob's eyes because it's 3 versus 1 now. It used to be skewed this side yesterday.
This is a good thing, because with the Kai curse active and alive, then that means VP will win.
All right, of course in that last match yesterday, somehow the curse came back according to our producers. And look at that, the fans don't think it's going to be as one-sided. We have 3-1 here on the desk, but 57-43, a little bit in favor of EG, and I think that's exactly what you guys have been pointing out. And I'm seeing right now that we're already in picks and bans, so let's jump right into it and get right into the action. Fans excited that we're kicking things off on time and early in the morning. So, now, one question I really want to bring up, as you see the toss ban, Silencer, do we, or not we, we're not playing, but does EG need to ban it out early?
I don't think so, certainly not. You can aggro try, which most teams haven't really explored the option just because it's really risky, but I think there are certainly ways to handle it. I think the Tusk ban is really, really important. Any hero that can displace other heroes in Dota is going to be really good. We've had like Batrider have his heyday, Force Staff, just so much strength in that. Vengeful Spirit with her swaps, and Tusk is no different.
No, I mean, especially in the metagame right now that's very focused on AoE, very focused on team fighting. I hear they can displace multiple heroes at once. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, and of course, and even just one, as both of you guys have been mentioning, taking them out of the fight is really going to make it a 5v4 for at least, 3 to 5 seconds, depending. Matters quite a bit.
I would also say that banning out Silence in the first is just not good enough. I don't think the opening of Silences is there, and VP has not ever played that way. They usually picked it up in 3rd or 4th, even 5th pick.
Yeah. I think this is an equally scary opening. I know Wind Weapon is considered really, really tough to play against by all of us, but on the other hand, Earthshaker and Shadow Fiend is just such a solid opening that I can't, like, this can still go either way, right? This is a 50-50 opening for both.
Winter Wyvern excels versus like single target physical damage, like you know, Storm Spirit, etc. Like we see a lot. But Earthshaker, Shadow Fiend, I mean, there's so much magic damage between those two.
Yeah,
I think so too. I don't think Winter Raven is. He's good against certain matchups.
Yes.
When it's favorable for him. But in this sense, you open up with two huge AoE heroes. I don't think it's that great at the moment.
I still think Winter Wyvern against Shadow Fiend is not bad. I mean, Shadow Fiend gets those max souls up early. You get a timely level 6 on the Winter Wyvern. Shadow Fiend hits his teammates pretty hard.
I want to point out though, Winter Wyvern on the side of Dire has better gank potential towards mid. When you can move over the cliff and start with a slow, you can see potentially early rotations of that support.
All right.
Incredibly strong ban phase by Evil Geniuses. First they go for the Rubik, showing respect to the supports from Virtus.Pro, who are both really good at it. And on the other hand, Evil Genius don't really seem to favor Rubik very much. Then they follow up with the Drow ban, just to eliminate, you know, the Visage Drow combo, and they already have 2 ranged heroes. And then lastly, the Clockwork ban. And I think Shadow Fiend and Earthshaker are 2 of the heroes that struggle the most against the Clockwork if they're isolated.
I do think though, Winter Raven, was it VP that combined that with a Visage?
Yesterday,
we had that combo for sure as 2 supports, where you have one support. Winter Raven, not the hero that really deals that much damage, but Visage pairs really well with a hero together.
All right, we'll see if that comes out. I do believe that might have been in this later half of the day. But of course, VP also giving a little nod to the Naga. They're like, all right, we saw yesterday. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want it coming out from left field there and climbing all the way back into the late game.
I also like that we're going to get to see a really signature mid-matchup here. We're likely going to get to see G on his Queen of Pain against the Sumail Shadow Fiend. Both of those players just absolutely known for those 2 heroes.
All right.
And as we were talking about yesterday, Lion, one of the better support picks up against the Winter Wyvern just because of that burst damage from Finger of Death and sort of taking down the target.
All right, yeah, so the Lion coming out.
It was EG that ran that combo yesterday, by the way, that you're referring to, with the Winter Wyvern with the Visage.
Phantom Lancer. All right, well, we'll see if VP picks up on that. The PL getting through the cracks and being picked up right away by EG for the last phase of picks and bans.
Yeah, EG just not fooling around. I mean, you definitely expect as the series goes on that you'll see some heavy counter picking, but I really feel right now that EG's focus is just, we're going to trot out a 5-hero lineup that we feel like we can just beat you to death with.
Yeah, I mean, and it's looking really strong. It's looking like heroes that have been tested and proven, not just for EG, but in Dota in general right now. And of course, EG, with their status as a team, are going to be able to handle them just fine. So VP, maybe, are they now in a reactionary phase, or can they also just continue with their own plans? What do you guys think?
I think they need a solution for Phantom Lancer. Yes. Like Darkseer, he can do okay. And Lion's not the best zoner. He's pretty good, but...
Isn't this a gyrocopter setup?
Usually, people... I think maybe a month ago, people would have been like, okay, yeah, Gyro versus PL, but it's become extremely unpopular to pick.
Not so much the PL, it's just, I think it works pretty well with the lineup they've already picked themselves. I'm a bit surprised they went for a 3rd pick Darkseer. I don't feel there was a rush. There were still heroes left that they could have put on the off.
Right. Yeah, a little bit surprised they're prioritizing that. And so now they're taking their time, maybe kind of thinking, all right, the PL getting through. How are we going to react to that?
I do wonder if they were surprised with the PL pickup. One thing I guess you can mention here is that on the side of EG, they just have their lockdown set pretty much, where if you look towards VP, they still miss some sort of lockdown. Right now, they have a setup with Darkseer, but I would like to see something maybe like even a Sand King, that Darkseer Sand King combination that used to be popular.
There you go.
That's
what
an
a
excellent
profit.
call.
Yeah, hitting it right on the nail there. Sandton coming out to fill out that role of providing more lockdown, also combining well with the rest of the lineup on VP.
I mean, it's one thing to call a hero like that. It's another to absolutely nail the reasons why you would want to go in that direction. So that's an excellent pickup. And I think with that, VP really do now have the AoE, the reliable AoE setup to handle the Phantom Lancer.
All right. So
we still look at the side that they still miss their carry. I do agree with Ben that Gyrocopter he's just not that popular anymore. I do think he can work, but You can't look towards the very late game with that hero. I don't think so.
Still, I actually really I like what VP have done. I like VP's drafting best when they leave Illidan's hero for 5th, because I think he plays a lot of heroes like a Weaver and a Slark that you don't necessarily expect to see that early aggression from, and he's gotten very comfortable fighting with those heroes with treads and 2 small items.
Yeah, I mean, Illidan really has been maybe some of the biggest transformations that we've seen for VP to really rise to that very top. EG not taking any chances of those. They say, all right, well, the rest of the lineup for VP looking pretty good for that gyrocopter, so let's take it out even if it's not as favorable as a matchup for them.
Yeah, those are both sort of the vanilla bans that you would absolutely expect. EG, you know, we're anticipating maybe an off-lane Earthshaker, although PPD plays that hero very, very well, and the Visage would have been an excellent choice for AUI. And then, of course, we talked about the potential of the Gyro. I actually would expect like a Slark or a Weaver here.
I do like Slark. I think Slark is quite a good hero. I mean, Illidan is just good on the hero.
That's the thing. I don't know. Every other Slark that I've seen in the pro scene, a lot of times if they're not getting steady kills throughout that mid game, they'll sort of plateau and their farm stops. Illidan just never plateaus on that hero.
As well as he just uses Dark Pact to its maximization. You have lockdowns such as Hex, and if you get the Dark Pact off just before, it means so much for a carry such as Slark, but if you get it off in comparison to other carries, Hex will always be scary. At least with Slark, you somewhat have a safe mechanism where you can jump in. You rely on the fact that someone will disable you, and if it's Shaker or
I'm waiting to the very last second here as we're breaking it down. Omni Knight, there you go, the Slark, right as you were breaking it down, Hani. But the Omni Knight gets through. We had Omni Knight banned a couple times yesterday, but gets through for EG. And that's it for the lineups. Looks like we're going to kick it off with an exciting match between EG and VP in the first semifinal. So let's not wait any longer and jump right into the game. The very first game of the day with our casters on the stage.
Starting things off big, a surprise last pick on the night coming out from Evil Geniuses. Thinking that means the Universe is going to be playing an off-lane Earthshaker at this point. Blitz, I'm loving the Omni Knight pickup. I feel like it complements what EG are running here, but we haven't seen too much Omni Knight in the current patch. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just a hero that struggles to get out levels, and it doesn't really have too much lane presence. Right. And as an off-laner, it's not that great because you can put pretty much any hero one-on-one against it that's on a melee, and it'll win. And so I think sometimes it'll struggle to find its place. But the last time I actually saw an Omni Knight pick, it was EG against Empire at MLG. It went terribly for them.
Yes, it did.
But I think this game, they have a much better game plan. It seems a lot more coherent. I think the Omni Knight pick is meant to help out Sumail as much as possible. And I think I saw PPD's blog after the match, and he's like, we put too much on Sumail. We needed a little bit more to help him out. And I think this is the game where they'll have a little bit more backup for him.
All right, you guys can already see the sneaky play from DK Phobos, being able to get off that early ward. AUI running out with the boots isn't even there. This is the real X Games.
Fierce prepare. So he remembers.
EG, they're hoping to be able to bring the Omni Knight back in style here, but they are facing up against a Darkseer offlane. There's not much an Omni Knight can really do to keep him out. So where does PPD go? You said he was trying to help out Sumail. Does he help him out in the laning phase at all? Does he go to the offlane to try and make sure the Universe does okay there? What does our Omni Knight do?
I think if you're an Omni Knight player, you just have to get levels. And that's the thing I think that's interesting about EG's draft, because I really want to know how they happen to zone the Darkseer off, because typically what you'll see is that AUI will eventually kind of play aggressively on his own and try to farm up a Blink Dagger as fast as we can. We saw him play the Naga Siren the other day, and how he decided to play it when he decided he was going to get 6-slotted.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested to see how he's going to balance A, zoning the Darkseer out, and B, getting his own amount of farm, because everybody here knows by now that AUI is the greediest player here, bar none.
Now, our analysts had a little bit of issues here with the early Winter Wyvern pickup. Now, obviously, it's very successful in the hands of Virtus.Pro, but they said, you know, there's a lot of magic damage coming out, and there's that first one, too, and there's even more now with the Lion, obviously, being there. You even have the Phantom Lancer's Lance coming out. Do you think the Winter Wyvern was actually a wise pickup early on in the draft?
Sorry, I was looking at Fear for a second on the monitor. But
he's doing wrist exercises.
Okay,
you know, you do those a lot, right, Blitz?
Yeah, he's got the shake weights in his hands. But what I think about the Winter Wyvern, I think it's just a hero that VP likes. It's a comfort hero, right?
Sure.
It's the same, I think, why they picked Illidan's
Slark, and I think it's why they picked G pretty much any mid-hero, right? Like any sort of snowballing mid-hero he's going to be successful on.
Yeah.
And I think the Winter Wyvern works really well with their strategy because what they like to do, and I talked to Matt about this, is they really want to snowball. They want to try to force aggressive fights early on. And Winter Wyvern just gives you such a high amount of outplayability. Like if you mess up against that hero at all, you group together a little bit too hard, you get cursed, everything just goes to hell.
The combination here from VP is going to be pretty sick as well. If they can actually get a really good vacuum into Winter's Curse or even Winter's Curse and then bringing people into that AoE via vacuum, then they have the Sand King, Epicenter, Burrow Strike to follow that up. Obviously the swarm of Queen of Pain abilities that can be thrown out. I mean, there is just an absolute ton of AoE coming out from VP. EG are going to have to play really careful coming into these team fights. Do they just try and split push for the most part and really abuse the Phantom Lancer pickup?
I think so. Typically what we do see is that VP kind of does this death ball where they hit a Roshan timing with a mech or something like that and try to 5-man. But I actually think this is the one game where things are going to be incredibly different for them. I feel like they have a little bit better late game and, well, maybe not. It's going to be pretty close. Like they have pretty reliable damage dealers. They've got good team fight. They'll probably try to hit a mid-game timing where their Slark and their Queen of Pain have BKBs is what I'd imagine. But I think if you're Virtus.Pro, you can't fight without BKBs.
Now we see a little bit of a heavier stat build. Sumail doesn't go all the way for the Wraith Band here, but just kind of splits it. With the cheaper Circlet, it seems like this is a bit more viable early build. He also already had his salve on him before the Bounty Rune, which, as you could see from God, is usually the play. You pick up the Bounty, use that to be able to buy yourself some additional regen. Why do you think Sumail went for this almost, it feels like split build, essentially?
You usually do this whenever you play against a disadvantageous matchup where you just want stats, but you want a bit of a faster bottle than a Wraith Band +2 Ironwood Branches would give you. Sure. Like it's going to let you get the bottle a little bit more reliably, and you don't have to all in without getting any sort of regen, because you don't want to just use that first 100 gold to get more regen. Like you're okay with just a salve, more or less, and against the Queen of Pain especially, you're going to get tons of harass with the dagger follow-up, and the Shadow Fiend can't really trade back. So what you're doing is you're using that salve to get you to level 3 so you can actually fight the Queen of Pain.
Right, and look what Sumail's kind of forced into doing here. He's going to have to blow the salve soon. Gon is really trying to push that advantage, and if he pushes it enough, he knows how reliant Sumail's going to be on that bottle, but potentially they could just easily get the first blood here with Lil coming in from behind. There it goes, first blood for God. That is not what you wanted to see if you're an EG fan. God, of all players on the side of VP, the most snowballing of snowballers, able to get that coveted first blood gold.
Yeah, and I think nowadays he's well regarded as one of the top 3 mid laners in Europe. But that gank setup was so beautiful by that Winter Wyvern. I had zero idea that was happening. I actually thought he was just trying to snipe the courier in case more regen came.
Well, I believe that was the plan, right?
Yeah.
If the fast enough bottle is out from Sumail, he is able to snipe it. But God just brings Sumail so low that you're like, well, why do I want to wait for the bottle if I can just get first blood?
How often do you see a gank go off where you don't come around the corner, you actually cut between the tier 1 and the tier 2 mid? That's actually one of the few times I've seen that.
Yeah, that's the power of the Winter Wyvern right there, is one of the few heroes alongside like maybe Tusk, who can utilize that cliff to actually go for the gank. And we might just see another kill here, but they think it's going to be on Sumail, but it might just be Lil, who's forced back over that bit of trees and will be able to get himself away. The invisible Omni Knight kind of spoiling the plans of VP.
Yeah, but still, PPD's forced to rotate. This means he's not going to get a lot of levels. And it's not a hero like Earthshaker where you only need the level 1 fissure to be effective. You need more than a single level of repel to be able to do anything as an Omni Knight. And so they're going to have to find a better plan for this mid lane because Sumail's not getting enough mid for this to be worth it for EG.
Checking out some of our other lanes, we've got both the carries on EG and VP, right about the same CS. Our offlaners, a little bit more CS, well, actually just one CS going the way of Earthshaker over our Darkseer, which is a little bit surprising. Universe is level 2 compared to DK Phobos, who's about to pick up his level 3, and he's got a big wave coming his way as well. So seems like DK Phobos is going to take the slight advantage, but that's kind of to be expected, right? The Darkseer just able to do a little bit more with the offlane and kind of pressure the advantage he gets in a 1 versus 2 scenario.
Yeah, and he scales so well. Every single level of the Ion Shell, just doing more and more. It's going to make it difficult for Fear to be able to sit there, and the Lion doesn't actually have the best base damage. Like, it was increased, but he doesn't have the best for us. Like, he's gone for the mana drain at level 2, and so the kill potential might be there as he's going to mana drain up DK Phobos. And
yeah, I think that's a really good play. Like, just being able to take away that Ion Shell spam as much as possible. is going to be pretty critical for allowing Fear to live through the lane. Now, we see a lot of Phantom Lancers. I was just about to ask you, does he go for the early Vlads here in this lane just to be able to get that extra natural sustain due to the fact that he's going to be dealing with this Ion Shell for probably at least another 5 minutes, right?
I think he should be okay because eventually the Darkseer will understand that the bottom lane is going to be a little bit too rough for him, I think, and just go to the jungle. Like, if that was a Universe Darkseer, I feel like he just goes to the jungle as soon as he sees the lane is difficult.
Right.
But I think it just depends on how much he thinks he can get out of that lane, and VP are diving pretty deep for this. I don't think this is a commitment at all, especially with PPD there.
No,
this
definitely
is just
not.
to hit the tower a little bit more because they have the Siege Wagon.
Yeah, makes sense. Double range creeps plus the Siege Wagon, hoping to be able to basically zone out those two heroes away from the experience as well. So, good play, obviously, but no kill potential whatsoever. Not with an Omni Knight there. The Repel is going to be one of the strongest abilities EG has to keep back the aggression of VP for the first 20 minutes.
And DK Phobos is still in this lane, and I think this is the right idea. And he's actually going to fight toe-to-toe with AUI. Face-to-face combat, but I shouldn't be able to do too much because AUI has boots.
Yeah, he's got that magic stick, the early magic stick pickup, especially against the mana drain. Like, he knows he's getting 2 spells out of that line every single time, plus probably a lance, so that early stick has a lot of value to it now. DK Phobos is going to take a lot of damage here. He still gets a surge and will be able to get ahead of that illusion, so he's fine. But he did lose a lot of mana and HP in the process.
Yeah, what they're trying to do there is that even if he gets CS, what Fear wants to do is just zone out the Darkseer from getting levels. Because once you get to level 5, you have 3 levels of the Ion Shell, and it's so dangerous. And G right now in this mid lane gets quite low, but this is what you expect in the Queen of Pain versus Shadow Fiend matchup, is that if he's relatively uncontested, and with PPD there for so long, he should be, then eventually he'll catch up.
Right. The first blood, it was a huge bonus for God, but it didn't actually set Sumail that far back. I mean, he didn't have that many souls in the first place, and now that he's got levels, you know, that level 3 raise, being able to clear through not only the creep wave, but also push back against God is going to be a significant factor. Sumail can probably also utilize the Radiant Jungle, which is a huge advantage for an SF mid.
Yeah, and FNG is just continuing to stack. And this is a smart play because if EG kind of holds neutral right now and they don't really do too much, VP should outfarm them, and that's what we're seeing right now. Is the Darkseer does just rotate to the jungle, and I think this is the right idea. He's not getting enough out of bottom to warrant keep staying in that lane. Whereas like an Earthshaker can't really go to the jungle. Like, he has to stay in the lane. But the Darkseer, you're not really contesting Fear's farm too much. Like, he's still free farming, and I think DK Phobos realizes that, and he should just rotate out.
So early mech, most likely for our Darkseer. Is that the item, just more natural team fight for VP?
I think so. It really helps against the burst damage that EG have with the Fissure. Like, after the Fissure lands in one raise, you get the mech off, you heal everybody to full, and then you can re-engage. Because once that stun is down, there's no more hard commitment that can come from EG.
Right. Now, here's the advantage that we were talking about for the Radiant Jungle. Sumail and PPD can both stack up those camps, and SF is actually spending probably a good minute here just farming up these 2 camps and allowing PPD to actually get a little bit of solo experience in the middle lane, where he obviously shouldn't die to God.
Yeah, and if you notice, the Phantom Lancer, instead of getting something like a Vlad's, he just grabs a bottle because he needs some regen. Like, you were correct there, but I think getting the Vlad's is too hard of a commitment. And the build-up isn't great on it, I think. And so getting the bottle, though, it does allow you to fight, and there's only one hero on your team that's going to get one. And that's probably Fear and Sumail. That's 2 heroes, but I meant Sumail's the only other person on your team that's going to grab one.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to screw him over out of runes or anything like that.
This is an interesting rotation. Looks like they actually really want to try and fight this one. They're going to go on to Fear here, but what they don't realize is the Universe right in the side with a 2-man Fissure to lead things off. God coming in with his screen, but FNG has already dropped Soul Heal low. He pops the Sandstorm, able to get that Bro Strike to stop Fear, and there goes the Sonic Wave to blow him up. The second kill going to VP, as it looks like FNG will be able to get out in time.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll continue to chase this. G's just going for that bottom rune, and the crazy thing is that EG knew that was coming. They even rotated their offlaner down, and it was still successful. FNG, who's been pulling the entire game, finally shows himself, and EG, I think they kind of had an idea that was happening, but they still weren't able to stop it, and I'd be really surprised if G decides to go for this. He doesn't have his ultimate. Sumail does have enough HP to survive the burst, and I think he's actually just going to go down bottom C, that he can't really do anything about it, and zone out. Like, he thinks that AUI is here, but as soon as he sees Universe, he'll just blink.
Yo, blink just ahead of that Fissure. Universe, unfortunately, missing out on some damage there. Meanwhile, Lil is taking over that middle lane, trying to get closer to that critical level 6 and that big-time ultimate. What about our Slark here? We talked about the Phantom Lancer a bit, but Illidan is also completely free farming. What's his item build? Do we see Blink Dagger or Shadow Blade? Or maybe an early SNY?
I think the Shadow Blade isn't the best option. Even something like an SNY or going stat heavy into a BKB is probably going to serve him best. They should have a Diffusal carrier at some point in the game, but Universe is going to get gone on, and he's getting quite low. Illidan pops the ult, he's going to get the kill, and that's a solo kill as Sumail rotates as well.
Yeah, Sumail will be able to clean up this creep wave, but a huge loss there for EG. 0-3 now to the favor of VP. Not a big surprise, though. VP known for a lot of their early aggression, and EG, as the analyst panel has stated a couple times, have kind of slowed down their game a bit. Blitz, do you agree with that? And have you noticed that from EG, that you feel like they're playing a little bit more conservatively in the first 15 minutes?
Oh, for sure. When I first started casting EG, what I noticed is it was a team that never gave you an inch. Like, they would build up 30k gold leads without throwing them away, and then they would Roshan 3 more times before they ended the game. And it felt like when they were at their peak of dominance, they started to maybe get a little bit more sloppy, or they got a little bit more careless. But it feels like Sumail has really toned down his play. You know, he's letting things develop for him. It feels like EG is kind of finding their confidence again.
Sure.
But I think VP, honestly, they do play a little bit formulaic, but everybody knows their role. Like, FNG and Lil might be top 2 support duo right now in Dota with how they play. And I feel like that's what makes VP tick.
Oh yeah, we've seen those supports shine time and time again for VP, and really are laying the foundation for the Virtus.Pro success every single game. Now, VP do have FNG, who's trying to farm up that Blink Dagger, obviously, via the jungle. He's level 5 and about halfway to that Blink Dagger, but not the really early 9 or 10 minute blink that you sometimes see from free farming SKs, and that's because he's got to share it with the Darkseer.
Yeah, and you usually see this, is that if the Darkseer or Centaur that they typically pick for DK Phobos has a hard time, what the stack was originally meant for, they just give to him, because they want to distribute the farm as cleanly as possible.
Yeah. There goes the double raises, and they do have FNG here. God is also sitting with an Invis rune and an Ion Shell on top of him, but he realizes Sumail just doing the very formulaic clear through a rate. Raise 1, raise 2, go back, farm up jungle. So there's not going to be really any good opportunity for G to find a kill. Bottom lane, they are diving in pretty deep up against Lil, but he manages to keep himself alive via Cold Embrace. Fear doing some decent chip damage on that tier 1 tower is important as well.
Yeah, and you're seeing, like you said, why Shadow Fiend is so valued on the Radiant side, because it's so hard to press into his jungle, and he can just easily make a move, and G's going to be the target here.
Yeah, there goes that finger attempt. AY reveals that he is indeed level 6 with a quick kill on G, the first kill for Evil Geniuses, and perhaps a secondary kill as well, as Lil gets hit by the Fissure. Sumail trying to catch up. He's going to try and go for the raises, but there goes the Winter's Curse. PPD is forced to hit him, his ally, but Sumail will be able to survive through that. Gets a heal, and it looks like now we'll push onto this tier 1 tower, at the very least, to do some chip damage.
I actually kind of like how EG drafted it against the Winter Wyvern as well. There's not a whole lot of right clickers on the side of Evil Geniuses, and even if you pick it mainly for the control factor, that does play a part. Like how much damage people are going to put out.
Sure.
Because that just means that Sumail and Fear will just stand apart from each other in most of these fights, but Illidan gets a free tower atop, and if you're EG, you have to be so worried about this, because now it's viable for him to get something snowbally like the Shadow Blade.
Yeah, particularly, there could be a chance that Guardian Angel just completely destroys that Winter's Curse. If he's able to get it off on the target that everyone's trying to hit, you know, it's a good opportunity for you to be able to neutralize that ultimate. Now, God is going to get the Fissure in order to, actually the Surge in order to dodge that Earth Spike. We do also have Illidan coming in from the side here. Now, you weren't a big fan of the Shadow Blade, but it seems like Illidan certainly is. He's going to be rotating through the bottom jungle area. I doubt he's going to go for Fear here, unless he has some extra help. Darkseer coming in. Maybe if they force out the Doppelgang, Fear's actually going to commit to this tower here. Illidan comes in from the side, forces out the Doppelgang, now has to land this pounce and will be able to. Fear, stuck, he's going to be forced to turn around and fight, but there's no way he can win that engagement. 1 versus 2. A quick kill, and perhaps a secondary one as Lil comes in from the side. Unfortunately, no Winter's Curse from him. And that means PPD simply repels and runs away.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Shadow Blade, but the timing he got it at, it seemed a little bit more obvious. Like, he was able to pick up a solo kill and a tower, and when that happens, it's always going to be viable, because now you can snowball, now you can actually start to get some items, and it's a pretty good damage item too. Like, I guess there's enough on his team that can save him that he's not too worried, and he does have enough AoE damage to back him up that going for the Shadow Blade isn't too greedy, and it allows him to just pick off supports at will. And so now what ends up happening even more with the Shadow Blade is it allows Illidan to scout for wards, it allows him to scout for single heroes, and it means that EG have to clump up a little bit more. And I feel like EG are the team that need the most space in the game to be able to accomplish what they want to.
Yeah, even just forcing, like, PPD is going to have to play a very hard fight position on the Omni Knight if they want AUI to be able to pick up that early Blink Dagger, more so than most other games. Because we have a Shadow Blade out, this means not only wards, but counter wards obviously need to be laid down as well. So this is a much heavier cost, a heavier tax to these supports, which could potentially slow down their progression in items, most notably the Blink Dagger on AUI is going to be the most critical.
Yeah, and if you notice EG's positioning, they're just so grouped up right now. And Fear's going to run into Illidan in the jungle, but with the Shadow Blade and his ultimate up, I don't think Illidan's afraid of anything. Like, he's playing pretty aggressively here, but he has to know the rest of the EG are backed up behind him. And this is EG's move to kind of break out of their jungle and establish some map control, but they have to get something out of this smoke. Like, I don't think this is just, let's take a tower smoke. This is let's actually try to kill 1 or 2 heroes because the mid tower's low. But what they don't know is that FNG has a Blink Dagger of his own.
Yeah, and they've actually 3-man smoked up here. FNG has that ultimate ready to go.
Plus they've got the vacuum potentially. DK Bubbles trying to stack, does manage to grab some mail. Oh, but the 2-man Fissure up to the ultimate! Incredible play from Universe, interrupting the 2 of them. And VP get dropped.
All right, they didn't expect that sort of backup from EG. As I mean, that fissure timing from Universe and Sumail smartly positioned was just
God's gonna go down as well. Sneaking around, catches out the Queen of Pain, and
you couldn't ask for a more successful smoke from Evil Geniuses. 3 kills and a tower. Bottom lane, Illidan's actually committing to this tier 1 tower. He should be able to get out though. AUI's not going to be able to catch up in time, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Illidan wasn't there for that engagement, and I think that was a little bit of a mistake. He decided to go for the split push bottom, but I think that mid tower is even more crucial because it allows you to keep control of your jungle. And if you notice what EG did, as soon as they take the mid tower, they place a sentry and an obs ward inside the enemy jungle to kind of get further control. And that's what you can't have happen when you lose the mid tower.
This is pretty heavy commitment from EG. So many counter wards being laid out, but it is kind of what they have to do against such an early Shadow Blade. Now, let's talk about some other items here from VP. We've got the Orchid coming in for G. Obviously, the other most popular item for Queen of Pain would be the Aghanims. What's the pros and cons between the 2 of them?
I think if you go for the Orchid, it's a little bit better. For especially helping out against the Omni Knight, because the Omni is not going to repel himself ever.
Sure.
The Aghanim Scepter is probably going to get negated by the burst heal that EG have. Like, there's a mech, they're going to make a move on PPD, he's immediately going to go down, but... Wow, that was that was fast. He thought Universe was behind him, but there's no amount of reaction time that'll save him there.
No, those 3 different nukes instantly taking him out. No opportunity to throw down a heal or even a repel, and obviously that repel isn't going to help you against Sonic Wave, which is now, by the way, level 2. So G still keeping up those levels. Net worth-wise, we are still seeing our SF top of the board. Now, that's not a big surprise. SF is one of those incredibly fast farmers that no one can really keep up with. Illidan is just trailing by 1k, and then you have the Phantom Lancer as well as the Queen of Pain operating in the same area. Illidan coming in through this top lane is going to be able to jump on AUI, should be able to quickly kill him and look for more, but Fear is already out.
And that's a pretty significant kill right now for them because AUI assumed that he was going to be safe, but they have that ward up there now too. So it means that what usually happens is AUI will split the off lane, and because most teams consider him a support, they won't even bother with him. Like, he'll just sit in that top area, pop out for a stun, go back, and just kind of needle at you. And so Illidan is saying, nope, not today. I'm just going to Shadow Blade, pick you off whenever you try to do that, and stop your snowball progression.
Yeah, unfortunately, it won't really shut down AUI as much as it could have if that gank had just come in 1 minute earlier. The Blink Dagger was picked up from AUI shortly beforehand. PPD is going to be feeling some serious problems here. Oh, poor PPD is actually going to survive just a little bit longer than expected, but still goes down. Again, that Winter's Curse leading into the Illidan gank. Super easy. Bottom lane, they also catch out the Phantom Lancer.
Yeah, right now, FNG might even run into Sumail. I don't know if they have enough damage to take him down. Yeah, he's got a Blink Dagger and a mech.
Not enough mana on the Sand King for a Burrow Strike anyway, so they back themselves away. But double ultimates being committed for Fear, but well worth it, shutting down his farm. incredibly important. That early diffusal blade pickup obviously increases the power of the Phantom Lancer in these team fights just exponentially, it seems like. Not only the mana burn is incredibly harassive, but just the damage, even from the illusions, is pretty insane.
And I really hope that VP don't go for this right now. They have to understand that Sumail is way too tanky for this unless they commit with at least 3 heroes. And with Illidan coming down, he knows they have no vision of this, so he might actually go, but Universe is behind him, and both Blink Daggers picked up by EG, and they're just going to vanish as they realize that's not a fight they want to take. With no tier 1 up, I don't think they can take that.
Now, at what point does... I feel like the impetus is a little bit more on VP to try and take map control and be a bit more aggressive, though they both have actually, I feel like, a very similar lineup going late game. I'd side with EG's a little bit more. VP, how much farming time do they need? Like, do they just sit back?
Oh no! Illidan gets spotted out and immediately blown up.
That was such a smart smoke because they understood that VP most likely has wards in their jungle, and what this is going to allow them to do is finally take control of their jungle again, and more than that, it's to go for this Roshan, and this is EG's play. They always like to go for the early Roshan. They know that both the ultimates are still down from VP, and this is a good take by them because without Illidan, there's no way that VP should go for this. Like, there's a mech, there's an Omni in position, you don't have vision.
They get this. There's a really good potential for a Winter's Curse here with
The Sonic Wave following up, but it's dangerous as hell. Pro Strike, 2-man vacuum, but there goes the Sonic Wave, wipes out 2. DK Phobos still surviving against Fear and Sumail, but it is a 1 fight for EG. They lose 2, but traded off for another 2 and still have the power to be able to take this Roshan. And last FNG jumps in for another Bro Strike. God comes in, the scream, FNG immediately blown up though. They get the Orchid onto AUI. God really wants this kill badly, but AUI is going to be able to survive. No, the last nuke hits him before he gets off a potential Hex. And it looks like, yeah, it cost FNG his life, but they managed to push EG away from that Roshan.
This play, it kind of seems bad for VP, and they lost a little bit more, but it's probably worth it for them because they're just trying to stop the Roshan at all costs. And they can probably do that, and they didn't suffer heavy losses, so it was well played by VP, but they didn't expect to win that fight. It was more just, if you only have 2 players in the Rosh pit, there's no way we'll take it, and getting this Aegis on the Illidan is well worth it.
Yeah, they basically made a trade-off almost in hero kills. I think EG picked up 1 more, but then the Roshan going the way of VP is obviously, in my opinion, a much better swing. So VP, it felt like that was a very all-in maneuver from them in a way that if they failed to actually stop that, like not pick up enough kills and EG still gets Roshan, then that would have been a huge blow to VP's economy. But they are now looking pretty damn good, 3K experience and gold. But they are having their middle lane pushed in by Sumail. They probably know he's got some backup behind him.
Honestly, Kat, for me, that kind of signifies what sort of team that VP is that they trust each other. Like, they probably made the call as a group, even though we're 4v5, they're set up, we don't have the best vision, we should still go for this because we can make this happen, and we'll sacrifice each other. We don't really care about kill death or anything like that, just to secure the Roshan. Great play by them, and Fear is getting a little bit more farmed. He has died 3 times though, so VP don't really have to worry about him as much as they do about the Shadow Fiend, and that's what we talked about, is how well the Shadow Fiend's going to do, especially when he has the Omni heal back up with him.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually going to go for a BKB, so they can actually use the repel on someone else. There's no danger of a diffusal really from anybody, right? Unless maybe Illidan goes for it, but that would be very unique. So it feels like this means he just wants a BKB so he can have magic immunity and they can pass off the repel to someone else.
Yeah, it'll be really good on Fear, and even putting it on somebody like Universe and not allowing him to get interrupted during his combo would be fantastic for them. And VP with the Aegis, they're trying to make as many aggressive moves as they can, but their bottom lane is being pushed out and FNG is going to be sent there, but it looks like they still want to make a maneuver at top as they do have ward vision.
Illidan did get spotted out by the 1 sentry placed just recently by the EG supports, and that's good for EG. They're down to just continue to sit back and farm, especially with Fear picking up a double damage, clearing through some Ancients, and Sumail continuing to farm as well. PPD still looking at that pretty much no item status. AUI has picked up Tranquil Boots after his Blink Dagger, but no real progression there. Universe, just the Blink Dagger for now, but that's really all the Earthshaker needs in these first 25-30 minutes.
Yeah, and you're seeing the power of the Shadow Blade right now. If you pick it up early enough, is that most of this time now, EG are kind of just grouped up together because they realize if they individually get picked off, it would hurt so much.
Is this just a really good read from the SF? Because now with the Diffusal actually being picked up by our DK Phobos, this means BKB is actually very necessary for our SF. He can't rely on Repel because it get Diffusaled away. Now he has like the backup play. Repel gets taken down, he instantly BKBs.
You have to get the defusal, even for just taking away the Guardian Angel. I think it's just well worth it. Like, if you Winter's Curse and then he gets G8, you just defusal. I think that's how it works, right?
Yep.
And I think it's just a good play overall. And Sumail, no matter what happens, he can't rely only on the Repel. Like, he was going to get a BKB no matter what. They do have enough DPS with the amount of stun lock that they have early game, and Fear with his Diffusal Blade can put out enough. So it's just about taking away whatever buffs that EG can put on their heroes.
All right, so BKB is going to be up soon for G, but their Aegis is going to drop in about a minute and a half, so they really need to try and force something with that. Illidan making their rotation into the enemy jungle here. He may just run into PPD. Looks like Universe spots him out. Fisher gets laid in there, but he's already pounced himself over the cliff. Sumail quick to TP out, doesn't want to be caught. VP on the left-hand side, though, trying to jump for Fear, but he managed to get a doppelganger away, but now they get the After Slam, holding an FNG. Fear almost goes down, but he gets the heal. Now a big Winter's Curse on the Sumail, but it doesn't control enough. VP do not have the power to be able to get anything out of that. Illidan is going to be completely rebuffed there. Hex goes down, Dark Pact pounce away, and he is out. So VP lost FNG. That's about it. Might just lose a little bit more. Vacuum in. There goes the wall. Illidan trying to jump into that one, but unfortunately, again, EG have the defense with both the Repel and the heals. Yeah, Illidan really wants to, I think, utilize this Aegis for a one-team fight, but it doesn't seem like he's just being outmaneuvered. They've already taken out Lil, while Illidan still going for Fear, but he got him in the end. Illidan is now completely out of mana. He still has that Aegis. He needs to die soon, though. He's going to be blocked in. Looks like, yeah, he's going to go down here. It's actually PPD who's trapped here with God sitting on the side. He will be able to get that kill. Vacuum holding in Sumail. He's going to triangulate, loot that ultimate. Illidan pounce away, though, gets to the side. Trapped by Universe, though, ends up going down anyway. Now DK Phobos in some trouble. TP out, but Universe says no. Fisher on to 2. And EG, that was VP. It feels like just trying to force it a bit too much with that Aegis.
I mean, they had the advantage in the fight at some points, and they're like, okay, let's continue to push it, but EG, they just kited them forever, and Sumail with that ultimate. There's no way that Illidan thought that was going to be dropped on him, and without that ult of his own, he was just chased down by EG, and really well played by Sumail more than anything. Like, more than VP playing poorly or anything like that, I feel like EG just simply outplayed them from top to the beginning of the fight to the end, and now Universe has a huge chunk of change, and AUI's got his level 11 at the same time as a result of that fight, and EG, I actually think they're in somewhat control of this game, but they do have to still worry because that's a level 15 Slark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, he is level 15, so that level 3 ultimate is going to be coming up soon. The problem is he did go for that Diffusal Blade, which does seriously hurt his stats, right? So normally we see maybe an early Scotty coming out from a Slark, which will increase his HP quite significantly. With the Diffusal Blade obviously not giving you any strength at all, this means our Slark is still incredibly squishy, and we saw that from the last SF ulti.
He really needs a BKB at this point in the game. There's just so much that crowd controls him. It takes him too long to be able to chase heroes down. I think he realizes that. I think if you're a VP2, you just don't go for fights until you can get something like a BKB on both your cores. There's actually no reason to fight before that point. And Queen of Pain's going to pick hers up, but I don't think they should comfortably look for a fight without an Aegis for Illidan, which would replace the need for a BKB, or him getting a BKB on his own. But the issue is that he's quite far away from it right now. Like, at earliest, he'll get it in the next 3 minutes. So there's going to be a time buffer where EG can pretty much do whatever they want on the map. Because they have their own BKBs, they've got the Repel, but VP actually is just going to say, screw it, we'll smoke on our own. This is going to be an unexpected timing, but they have to realize that EG is going to fight 5v5, and they'll willingly take this fight too.
Sumail actually picking up the Perseverance there with the Ultimate Orb. But first, we got to watch on VP coming in through the side. Illidan is leading the way with the Shadow Blade. Now, there are some counters already set up from EG, so not a good opportunity. Unfortunately, Illidan walks back at just kind of the inopportune time here. Maybe he could have seen that EG smoke pop as 5. But that being said, EG are heading in the wrong direction. Doesn't look like they're going to be clashing anytime soon.
Yeah, and Sumail's going to go for that Linken's so that he can get the BKB ult off so the curse doesn't do anything. And I think that's a really good play by him too, because once his BKB, you start losing a little bit of charges, you can block the Diffusal so that your Repel stays on, and so that'll mean he's invulnerable for quite some time. And
big jump on Illidan. There's the double ultimate. At Illidan, even if he did have a tankier setup, I'm thinking those nukes were going to be enough to kill him no matter what. So, big pick off for EG, taking down the carry of VP.
And I'm actually so surprised still that VP decided to go for that smoke. And EG decided to go for their own because, again, they're looking for fights right now. They feel like at this point, this is the strongest that EG are compared to VP. And with Sumail being as big as he is, like, he's going to clear out this creep wave. They're going to go for the tier 2, and VP's best option right now is to try to clear out this bottom tier 2 and the tier 1 mid so they can easily access Roche and make EG pull back. But Universe is going to come back right now and...
Nice attempt there. Looking to be able to stop that TP back. FNG putting himself up on the trees here. He's going to TP back as well, but the tier 2 tower is already down. Middle tier 1 is going to drop a bit low. Might go into deny range. Nope. Universe stops it from heading in that direction. So it's 13-13 right now. You're saying that Evil Geniuses do have basically the mid-game advantage at this point. That they're trying to look for these fights. Net worth-wise, it's quite even. Experience slightly to the favor of EG. This is primarily, EG have an advantage right now, primarily because Sumail has focused so much on the mid-game, right? I mean, you've got 4 different items here, plus your boots, that are all like medium-tier items. We don't have him going for any big late-game items just yet. So this feels like a very heavy investment in him to make sure that they win the mid-game and they can prolong this game for Fear a bit more.
Yeah, I completely agree, but EG's net worth is meant to be a little bit low because they have PPD who's playing the PPD playing that Omni Knight, who's typically just gonna have nothing. Like with a Soul Ring and boots, everything else is a luxury to your hero. He might pick up something like Trinkle Boots for himself or Vlad's, but other than that, there's no single item that he can get any more in this game that'll really impact anything. So he's actually just gonna be the one that wards up while AUI gets a little bit more aggressive. But I'm a little bit worried for EG because the real fight will happen once VP have both their cores with BKBs. Like once that happens, we can really accurately judge how this game's gonna go. But until then, it's not really clear because the next Roche fight is also gonna determine so much for VP.
Oh, looks like a third BKB is actually gonna come in as well. DK Phobos opts for the Ogre Club to potentially build into that one. Counter ward being laid out. Illidan looks like did get spotted. He also spies out the fact that Roshan is up. And this could be our next team fight, but is it to the advantage of EG simply because we don't have all of the BKBs on the side of VP yet? It's only G who's picked up his.
Oh, for sure. Right now, if you're EG and you know that Illidan doesn't have that BKB yet, you still want to get aggressive on the map. And remember what I talked about, where there was going to be a 3-4 minute window where EG can pretty much do whatever they want.
Yep.
You're seeing that right now. They're pushing up mid really aggressively, even in ward vision. They're showing Fear at top, and they still don't really care because they realize even in a 4v5 situation, they can take this fight. And
can they do everything they want, though? FNG's going to go for PPD. Already out there goes the healer instantly. Illidan's looking for more AUI. Just ahead of that Burrow Strike. Nice 2-man Earth Spike, but Illidan will be able to catch him anyway. Turns around, goes for the Finger of Death, but not happening. VP have gained 2 pickoffs. And EG just feeling a bit too overconfident. You described it pretty beautifully. It looks like EG were doing exactly what you said, showing Fear at top, aggressively pushing down middle. But the pickoff starting with the Omni Knight is such a critical point for VP. The fact that they managed to kill PPD first then allows them to quickly win the team fight and now be able to take Roshan for themselves.
Yeah, and most of these fights, they actually try to initiate on Sumail or a hero like the Earthshaker, and so this fight, they actually decided, okay, if we pop the Omni Knight, then it's a 5v3 fight. There's no way that EG will continue to fight at that point, and I think EG had the right idea, but they had to be ready to rotate a little bit quicker, and Fear doesn't have boots of travel or anything like that, so they had to anticipate that VP might want to take that fight, and VP doing a good job of taking opportunities right now, and this is going to be a free Roshan for them, and this is really significant because the BKB is going to come down at the same time on Illidan. This is a really nice timing that they're about to hit.
So perhaps the advantage now swinging to Virtus.Pro's favor in this game 1. 13-15, the score is quite even, both in kills and net worth and experience, slight lead for EG. So it's all going to come down to these individual plays. Now, we have Sumail finishing up his Lincolns, has another 2,300 gold. Fear does have his Manta, and it looks like he's going BKB. There's a lot of AoE control, so I wouldn't really say that it's a bad item by any means. It feels like no matter what you do, no matter how good you are with that doppelganger, there's enough AoE to clear through your illusions pretty quickly and spy out the real Phantom Lancer.
Yeah, there's no real reason not to go for it. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about Sumail right now is that he has built so heavily for this mid game that he does lack a little bit of damage. His survivability is pretty high, but other than that, that means that you have to outwork VP in these fights. Like the way that he's built and the way that most of EG is built is just to outlast VP in fights. So try to kite as long as possible, live, try to get a numbers advantage. And we're seeing that right now reflected in their builds, but what worries me right now is that VP might not care. With that Diffusal Blade, they can actually just catch up to most of the heroes in the game. Illidan's about to pick up a BKB of his own, and EG's gonna find it rough to try to take down the heroes of VP as their cores are quite tanky now.
Virtus.Pro already setting up for this potential gank at top lane. You can see what Lil has done. He's flown himself over the trees. They're waiting for anybody to defend, and they could potentially pop both ultimates to kill that poor soul who tries to defend that tier 2 tower. It looks like it might just be Universe here. Now he TPs pretty defensively. See if Lil and FNG want to commit to this one. Universe, if he goes in for the next creep wave, I think he's very dead. There he shows himself, FNG first leading things off. And where's the ultimate? Echo Slam gets laid out, quickly clearing through that creep wave. And Universe may actually survive. Vacuum, nope, there it goes. Now the Winter's Curse looks laid onto AUI. It looks like Virtus.Pro are going to make a re-entry here with the epicenter, blowing up AUI immediately. Samael now right on top of Lil. You want to pop that ultimate? Go ahead. There it goes. Lil is out. And they also managed to take out FNG. 2 for 2 exchange there. But DK Phobos did get away to safety. They forced a lot of EG to rotate. And it looks like Evil Geniuses, I mean, they may have evened up that fight, but it's still VP basically forcing something out of Evil Geniuses while their cores were still farming around the map.
Yeah, you're incredibly satisfied with that, though, if you're EG, because you lost Universe, but you gained 2 heroes. And I think that second kill, though, it didn't have to happen. Like, VP could have just gone out scot-free. They take out the Earthshaker. No more commitment has to happen, but they decide that they can pop AUI pretty quickly. But AUI is actually really tanky right now. Like, he's got an urn, he's got enough HP to live throughout that ultimate, he's got that wand, and there wasn't really too much burst damage coming on the side of VP because neither of the cores were there, and so I think that was a little bit of a misplay, but it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change the fortunes too much on either side. There's still both BKBs available for VP, and as time starts to tick down on Sumail's, things get a little bit more rough for EG.
Illidan, again, he's been spotted out, I think, a couple times. They start pinging out this camp. I think they know Illidan is around. Sure enough, he's seen out by the counter ward. Illidan, of course, with his ultimate, his passive part of his ultimate, disappearing. He realized he's been spotted out, so quickly Dark Packs and pounces away. He'll be fine now. 20,000 net worth right now on the Shadow Fiend. It looks really impressive, but that net worth lead is really going to start playing almost against him in a way, in that he's running out of slots, and he's going to have to start trading in these mid-game items that he picked up for late-game items, which means that he's essentially throwing away gold in some way.
Yeah, that mechanism, as the game goes on later and later, you're going to see that VP don't really care about it too much. The burst damage is enough for them to kind of explode through it. And Sumail opts to go for the butterfly right now, and I think that's the right decision. Start building more into the late game, try to deal more damage if you possibly can, and you don't really have to worry too much because most of the time Lil is going to focus him with the curse, and so you don't really have to worry about Fear getting hit 100 times by the Shadow Fiend. You're more worried about your survivability and getting a butterfly. That means that nobody on EG will pick up an MKB or something like that, just in case it might actually screw Sumail over, but VP, the Aegis is going to run out pretty soon, and I think with that, as soon as the Aegis is about to fade, I think you just try to make an aggressive move if you're EG. Yeah, like try to group up together as 5.
On top of that, you probably have a good idea that most of Virtus.Pro, they're not going to be able to get an MKB anytime soon. I mean, Illidan's commitment into the Diffusal means that if you want to go for an MKB, go ahead, but it means you're not getting that Scotty. And again, that leaves you still incredibly squishy as the main carry here. Sitting below 2k HP as you start going 40, 45 minutes into the game is very difficult to work with, essentially. So Illidan is going to be kind of forced into making that decision. Blitz, if you're sitting there in Illidan's position, which one do you go for? Do you go for the MKB to counter out the butterfly, or do you try and go for that coveted Scotty?
I think you go for the Scotty, and you trust that you can burst through most of his HP just with spells. Once you get that
Illidan initiated immediately. Echo Sand gets laid out. There goes the first F and the Winter's Curse. What a counter from VP as Illidan's going to be able to pop his BKB and now starts right-clicking onto Sumail, but he's got that butterfly, so instead Illidan turns onto PPD, trying to take away that healer. Heal goes out, but the Sonic Wave is an overwhelming amount of damage. Now Sumail is left practically without a team. Fear's going to come in from the side, though, and might just get Illidan, but he managed to get the Shadow Blade away, and they don't have the counter vision to reveal. G, also sitting on the side, will not be found, so an even fight
both of the 2 and 1 positions of EG managed to survive. Is that just a dead even fight, Splits, or do you favor one team or the other with that?
I think I favor EG because they were fighting 4v5 for the most part, and they had a lot of the advantages going in, but they weren't able to do too much, and Sumail's got his blink in 1 second.
Oh no! He didn't get it off, so maybe the fight will play into Virtus.Pro's advantage. Sumail just fighting up against Illidan.
So strong!
No, he may just go down. The raise is too much. He moves for more. Sumail challenging 2 versus 1 and comes out on top.
Sumail is such a beast right now. He understands the position he's in. He notices that without the Queen of Pain there, he's not going to really commit to a fight, and even losing the gem, and that was VP's gem, I believe, not EG's, and all of a sudden, that solo play just cost them so much.
It did. Now, absolutely, Evil Geniuses won that fight with the extra pick off on the Slark. Universe coming forward. Oh, doesn't have his Echo Slam, so just a little bit of harassment and CS being picked up. And this now means that Fear will actually jump ahead of everybody else on the side of Virtus.Pro. For the longest time, SF was top of the board, but we had the heroes like Queen of Pain and Slark sitting in 2nd and 3rd. Fear has finally caught up to all of these other heroes that were ahead of him, and is going to be quite the beast that BKB still actually wasn't used in that last fight. So that was Fear operating without the magic immunity.
Yeah, and right now he opts to go for the MKB, and I think this is the right decision, especially since he just saw it in that last fight.
AUI sees the opportunity. Sumail's going to jump in as well. They're going to try both Pop Lil and FNG. It looks like they'll be successful. Lil stuck in the corner. PBD finished him off with a nice self-heal, and this will mean tier 2 tower and probably push straight uphill. They don't know if Virtus.Pro has buyback on those 2 heroes, but you might as well try and force it, and if it doesn't come out, they'll just continue for that tier 3.
There's no reason for EG to not continue pushing. They can even go for the Roshan after when it respawns, and so at the very least you try to pressure these heroes, but Illidan has to be careful, but
DK Bobo's coming in with the Sonic Wave as well. What a beautiful combination. Now Sumail stuck on the wrong side of that Fissure, but he will be able to blink himself away. Still though, they just managed to save a lot of damage on that tier 3 tower with that kind of initiation, even if it didn't kill anybody. The problem is EG still have the sustain to continue to fight. Fear is pushing back against G, and Sumail is getting the heal up and does a bit more chip damage to that tier 3 tower. Meanwhile, Illidan almost looks like he wants to try and find a pick off here, but don't see how that's going to happen. EG are actually going to try and reinitiate this one. They go for the 4-man smoke up here, actually the full 5-man with Sumail joining them. And if they can actually win a fight inside of Virtus.Pro's base, this could be potentially the end of the game, or maybe just a full lane of Raxus. G is going to be the first pick off, immediately blown up by Universe. Beyond godlike for Sumail as they start marching into the VP base.
And EG know, no matter what happens, VP don't really have any spells to work with. They only have FNG's ultimate right now. It doesn't do enough damage. He's not high of enough level, and Fear is just going to kind of mow everybody back as he's got his BKB, double kings down, and Illidan can't really hold these racks, and melee racks taken by EG, and they used so much to try to burst down EG, but they just didn't have the damage. They used the Queen of Pain ultimate, the vacuum perfectly with the wall, and it still wasn't enough to take down anyone in EG.
So Evil Geniuses walk away. A tier 3 melee racks as well as a couple kills. Much, much richer than they were before. That's net worth now skyrocketing upwards to their favor. Same goes in experience. The next advantage is going to be Roshan. It looks like this may go Virtus.Pro's way, just because Evil Geniuses have already kind of blown everything that they had in order to get the advantage at bottom lane, so they don't have much to be able to try and defend Roshan.
And this is a game-saving Roshan. This is the one that'll kind of make things okay for you, because if you're VP right now, you're going to be really demoralized after what happened at bottom. You had to commit G's buyback. You didn't get anything else out of it. You weren't able to defend your racks.
Maybe not. EG, they actually have a double damage on Sumail. The Universe is coming in as well. He does have the repel, leading the way with the invisibility Shadow Blade. He gets gone. Again, he's going to fall. That's a dieback. Now Vacuum gets laid out. A 3-man Vacuum into the wall. Maybe this will save the team fight. Epicenter coming in. AUI, bounce, bounce, bounce. He's going to live as well. FNG unable to claim that kill and will end up falling. Universe even is not going to die. EG just wiped through VP 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now they can take Roshan at their leisure, or maybe just push down middle and end the game right here.
You don't even go for the Roshan at this point. You understand that the Queen of Pain's buyback is on cooldown. FNG uses ultimate as well, and if you're EG, you're so satisfied with what just happened in the fight. It doesn't even matter if you go for the Roshan. It helps out, sure, but this game's already over for VP as 4 heroes go down. All the ultimates were committed. 1 hero goes down for EG. It's PPD. Nobody else dies. Fear is going to get so much out of this fight as he has a full Manta. The Scotty's going to fly in soon as well. And Sumail with the triple kill, the Beyond Godlike for such a long period of time. And this is the Sumail that we wanted to see. A controlled one with perfect aggression, coming into the middle of the fights and dealing damage.
Yeah, 30 seconds left on the clock for the Slark, and I believe Evil Geniuses have realized he does not have buyback. They're going to try and take out this mid laner X and potentially go for top before this 25 seconds is left on the Queen of Pain. Fear's already up there, tier 3 tower. Looks like we do have one last fight for Virtus.Pro, but if they don't win it and win it heavily, they're completely out of this game. Won't be able to make the comeback. Nice force tap over to the side, but Echo Slam, hello! There goes 2 already, Evil Geniuses. Just as the Slark and the Queen of Pain were about to come back, they force it into another 3 versus 5. EG will now be able to take down that tier 3 tower, and somehow Illidan and the rest of his boys are going to try and make a miracle happen. BKB pop starts going on to Universe, but look at the right-click damage to Sumail. He pops his ultimate and will be able to take down Universe, but that's just the Aegis. Now they'll go for AY. Squeezy targets through and through, but they're still not dealing with Universe himself, who's just beating on these heroes. DK Phobos trying to get back to the fountain, will be able to make it, but unfortunately our Slark is dead, and that's it. Game number 1 goes to the Evil Geniuses.
And I really, really hope that everybody on that panel praises Sumail. He started with that first step in mid, doesn't tilt, holds strong. I think he ends 16-1, absolutely dominates that game. EG, the beginning was a little bit rough for them, but it was all them past the 20-minute mark.
Oh yeah, the most notable play that I can remember is that early in that mid-tier 1 tower area, Blink Dagger plays from Sumail, picking off where they're hiding VP, they're trying to force that fight with the Aegis, and the Blink Dagger plays coming out from Sumail were superb. He definitely was one of the main factors that Evil Geniuses won this game. VP will have their chance to respond in a game number 2, but that's going to be coming up after a short break.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the Commerzbank-Arena for ESL One. We here at the PaySafe Expert Desk have have a few words, I would assume, especially about EG and their play. I mean, Sumail coming into that game, taking a page out of Illidan's book and saying, you are not prepared for this game, taking him down, just absolutely wrecking with that Shadow Fiend. Jacob, what'd you think of that?
An absolutely stunning performance from him. I think there was, in the early game, all the fights really came down to whether or not he would land a great Requiem of Souls, and that happened every time. You know, it was the middle fight at the tier 1 tower with the first Epicenter Blink Dagger combo, and then later on that magnificent ultimate on the Slark that was resurrecting from the Aegis. That was really the defining moment of the game.
Beautiful. That was really beautiful. And afterwards, too. I mean, afterwards, of course, Zydus were ahead. His net worth was way ahead of everyone else we saw later on. I think, minimum 6K above the enemy team, the top on the enemy
10K
team.
10K, actually.
Oh, 10K by the end. All right. Yeah, I was looking at it towards the later half. Ben, what'd you think? I mean, where did it go south for VP?
I mean, they tried to all in to try and deal with the repel, but Sumail's item builds are always really, really good. He had the BKB in case the Diffusal came off. He had the Lincolns for like the Winter's Curse as well as the Diffusal, and then he had the Butterfly. Near the end there, Slark and Queen of Pain tried to 2v1 him, and he's just so manly.
This was a huge turning point in the game, by the way, where I think VP thought that they had an easy kill on Sumail mid, and in comes Universe with the Fisher into that Requiem of Souls, as we mentioned before. That was really, to me, we talked about VP's kills and how 40% of their kills come between the 10 and the 20-minute mark. That was EG having a great rate of the situation, knowing when VP were going to be looking to get aggressive on them and reacting so well. And that, by the way, that was a performance from, I feel so satisfied right now. I mean, the draft delivered exactly as I thought it would. The last pick, Omni-Knight, was brilliant. On paper, Guardian Angel to counter Winter's Curse is something I think a lot of people have talked about. I've never seen it tried. And that was a performance from the ages by Sumail. 24K hero damage on Shadow Fiend. That's twice as much as any hero in the game, any other hero in the game. G's Queen of Pain had 12K. Wow. And it's in the top 10 ever in a LAN match for Shadow Fiend. So it's, I mean, the kid just delivered big time on a big stage.
Yeah, it's a pretty high number. But of course, I mean, in the beginning, it didn't start off as well as it ended for Sumail. Of course, he got first blooded there, and that's exactly what you were talking about, Kai. I mean, the Winter Wyvern getting to get that little bit of flank on the side from that high ground. But despite that, I mean, do you agree with these guys that VP, maybe they just kind of, they were too obvious in when they wanted to get aggressive, and they also just weren't able to counter out Sumail's being ahead, just one step ahead?
I would like to hear what Illidan's thoughts were on the Diffuser pickup, whether or not, I mean, generally the pickup is good against an Omni-Knight, but would you maybe go for more of a HP item before getting that Diffuser bait, such as a normal pickup of Scotty? I think it's a good pickup before, because you reach a certain amount of HP that you have to have if you don't want to just explode against the combo on the side of EG. When we've seen the Echo Slams into the fingers of the line, and there seemed to be no answer for VP there.
Yeah, I mean, the later few fights, I mean, VP, everyone just getting wiped out, too busy just running away, trying to survive so they could maybe block something in that next push coming over from EG. So we talked about this. EG probably looking a little bit stronger, a little bit better in form coming into the second day. Jacob, what do you think VP needs to do at this point to change things up?
I think they did everything right until those mid-fights where the game really turned. I don't think they necessarily need to turn it or change anything. I think this was a very perfect performance coming off from Sumail especially, but also I think Universe had some standout Fishers and Echo Slam initiates. And so I think they just need to play it a bit more tight. Okay. That middle go that we saw the replay of was basically just them overestimating their own abilities.
Right.
You know, once the enemy reaches a certain point away from the Sand King, he can't really blink in an epicenter, and there was level 1 vacuum. It's not really going to help you much. Yeah. So I think they just should have calmed down and waited a little bit. They could have just waited for EG to further advance on the tower.
I think their picks just weren't as good. Like, they had 2 really important kills on Slark, where Universe just blinked and echoed, and they fingered him down before he could survive. And those were really important kills when he had BKB as well. And then they had the fake back on Illidan's Queen of Pain. They just had really important kills, whereas Sumail, he only gave up first blood. And after that, he didn't really feel that much pressure. I mean, part of that is due to PBD's really great positioning, and he played like a sacrificial lamb that game. Kind of sad to see him die a lot, but it ended up winning the game.
At the same time, though, they did have the early kills on Fear.
Yes.
And I actually thought that was why I really liked VP's chances around about 12, 13 minutes is that they were really putting a lot of pressure on lane. I mean, they were not afraid to commit ultimates to kill off Fear.
Oh man, we're looking at this, of course, right at the Roshby. Ishii coming in. Going strong. I mean, at this point,
and we were talking about the Sand King. We've talked about it yesterday as well, how we would like to see some more Sand King play. I really didn't feel it has as much impact in this game as I would have expected it to. I'm a bit surprised because
that's
FNG
why
is...
Fear died a lot. They committed a lot.
Exactly. In the early game, but if you see, like, the epicenters were rarely ever defining for any of the team fights, and it's odd. Like, I don't blame FNG or anything, don't get me wrong, but I just find it weird that in a Darkseer setup with epicenter and everything, it really just felt as if it did nothing.
Yeah.
It was nullified by the mechanism every time.
It comes down to how like, they were in a disadvantage. I felt like they needed a disable no matter what, and if it's Sankey or another hero, I don't think it mattered too much. I think the Darkseer Sankey combination is pretty strong, and it just didn't seem to work. We saw the first engagement on the middle tower. It didn't shine. It could have gone great.
I think what we really nailed it on the head from picks where they needed something. So they went with it, but I think you pointing out, Jacob, that they also just needed to play a little bit tighter. I mean, maybe the combo on paper, we all know that it works, but they just weren't able to make it work. They weren't able to set themselves up for that success with that combination. So maybe the answer is to switch it up a little bit. Maybe they're just not informed to make that specific one work. Maybe something else can work out a little bit better for VP. Hopefully for the fans, of course, just to watch a closer series here in that first semifinals of EG versus VP. Of course, fans of you at home, don't forget to join the massive Corsair giveaway we had. That's at CorsairGaming.com/ESL1, so you can get some nice goodies there. But we'll be back after this break with game number 2.
Я тут остался. Тянул. Блядь, неправильно, я плохо сделал. Блин, ну я же говорил, что не надо в СФ.